if you're focused on being a good person, that affects the culture, which then affects the money. Ashley, doing 100K this year in your first summer selling, did you find that to be true with those three things?
Everyone kind of hits a wall in the summer. This is not easy. I did this in the first place for the money, but I'm gonna stay because of how Moxie has everything set out to be and how they care so much about the person you're becoming. I was setting goals and commitments that I wouldn't have normally done before sales because of the core values that they put in there.
We care way more about who you're becoming in all of the aspects of your life than we do just the sales aspect. What's up, you guys? Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Driven Persuasion podcast, where if you're a highly ambitious person, you're going to learn how to go from being unfocused to unstoppable, and specifically by applying the tactics, strategies, and learning from the results of persuasion and influence demonstrated at a high level. What that means for you is by applying the things we talk about in this podcast of sales skills or persuasion and influence, you can become the most persuasive, influential, and impactful version of yourself and better serve the people around you that you love and care about the most. I'm your host, Hayden Schaap. For the last 10 years, I've obsessively tried to learn, apply, and teach these skills of persuasion and influence at the highest level and have seen incredible results in my own life and the people that we've worked with. And that's what we're talking about. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on all of the audio platforms as well. Make sure you follow for more. If you get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you shared it with somebody else as well, because I think a lot of people could benefit. Enjoy the episode, guys. Ashley Nielsen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We've got Ashley Nielsen on the podcast today. You have sold one summer in Las Vegas with David and the crew there. And so we've got David on the pod again, who's the director of sales in Las Vegas. Welcome back. Tell us about who you are, where you came from, where you're going, why you're here. Yeah. All those questions.
I'm from Oregon. Okay. So Portland area, a little south from there.
What part?
Like Newburgh.
Okay, I have a couple friends that serve missions in like Portland area, so I'm sure they would know that. But they talk about some of the places they lived in. Then I can recognize those places, but not what you just said.
It's a tiny town, but yeah, I have two little sisters. We grew up out in Oregon. I was born actually here in Provo. Okay. My parents were going to BYU. Cool. Graduated in Newburgh, moved out to Rexburg, and now I'm at BYUI.
Very nice.
So I've been there for about 3 years now. It's my junior year.
Cool. Very nice. What are you studying right now?
Communications.
Cool. Very nice. Yeah. And what are you hoping to do with communications when you graduate?
It's actually funny. So
if we don't convince you to keep doing sales with us.
Sales forever. Why not? No. With communications, I actually want to get into real estate.
Very nice.
So investing, but also I kind of want to do some become a realtor. Cool. In one way or another, get my license after I graduate. Awesome. I don't really want to settle in Idaho. I want to move somewhere else, so I haven't gotten my license.
No way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Eastern Idaho.
We were roasting Idaho as we drove through it.
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks ago, last week.
Yeah, we were. I mean,
it's
good people.
Dead. There's nothing to do out there.
That's it.
Here's the thing, though. Like, no offense to anyone that grew up in Pocatello, Idaho, but like, I mean, I feel like you could probably throw a rock in any direction, maybe hit like a serial killer or something, you know?
Probably.
Sketch.
I don't know. I get weird vibes driving through Pocatello.
I think it's spooky.
It's really pretty. Here's the thing. I've never been in Idaho in the summer because I'm always selling.
That's fair.
So I'm always there like the worst time of year, and it's windy and it's cold, and I'm just like,
dude,
no,
I hate this place.
Bro, I literally invite my wife to go with me every time I take a trip to Rexburg up to our office up there. And she refuses, like, absolutely. She's like, nope, sorry, not going. It's so cold. But just the thought of how cold it is actually keeps her from going with me.
It is freedom.
Yeah, so we have this joke. I'm like, you don't love me. You love me until I go to Idaho. Then you don't love me anymore.
Don't want anything to do. That's so funny.
So communications. And tell me, how does communications tie into real estate for you?
So... See, I want to have a degree to fall back on is kind of where I'm going with, because I've always loved real estate. So I just want to get a degree before I'm too old and can't do it anymore. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I thought communications goes hand in hand with you need a network. Get out there to be able to kind of get into the real estate field. Having people to connect with will really get you out there. And
are you more journalism route or advertising route of communications?
Advertising for sure.
Cool. Well, as I don't know how it is in BYUI, but when I was going to school, I think the communications program has those two routes, like advertising or journalism,
there's a few
basically.
different routes, yeah. And a lot of like visual media, creating advertising ads and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cool.
So it's super cool.
Tell us a little bit about how you did this year in sales. And if you had to brag about yourself, what would you say about your sales experience and performance this summer?
Like just one thing?
Anything. Many things.
Just be
all
cocky.
of it. Yeah.
Let it all out.
Just kidding. No, I think I had this envision going into the summer of like shooting for the stars type of a thing.
Yeah.
And I really like in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, we'll see if we can get there. But I was like fully committed.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go out there and I was going to finish summer no matter what the outcome. And so for me, just making that commitment and keeping it was like the biggest thing for me that I would feel like.
Because it's harder than you'd think, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when everyone says like, oh, this is going to be the hardest job ever.
Yes.
But then when you actually
You
do
don't
it, you're
know
like,
until you get out there.
Okay. All right. I get it now.
Yeah. He would tell me that all the time. He's like, this isn't easy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Like it's hard and you're going to go through it. But that's why I had it in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to finish this. If I'm signing, I'm staying.
Cool.
You know, type of a thing. And so I was proud of myself for finishing, not only that, but also hitting the goals that I thought maybe I couldn't have.
Okay. Sweet. Tell me a little bit about those specifically.
Like numbers wise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 100K was like the big number, but I mean, I didn't know it was achievable. I barely knew sales. I didn't know really what it looked like when you actually get out there and do it, like what's actually possible.
Yeah.
Because we're training and everything, but it's hard to actually envision it when you're out there.
And it's a slow start too, right? So like even you're thinking like, oh, I can do 100K, but a month and a half in, you're like,
oh,
based on my averages right now, I might even be on track, but that's just totally normal actually.
It's
but
just like the learning curve took
Yep.
a minute. I mean, right off the bat, I was somewhat selling better than others on our team for sure. So I was proud of myself in that aspect. And as I was going, I think it was the first 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm not on track. Shoot, we're 2 weeks in and I plan like a certain allotted time and I need to be selling this many a day or a week. And I'm not on track right now, but it kicked in and I started up and going and selling more and more and more and getting better at those skills. And we were learning more. And so
it's awesome.
I was just becoming more improved.
I remember looking down, when did you really like start turning it on? Like July? I'm talking like big numbers.
I think it was June.
It was during the tournament.
Yeah.
It was during the team tournament.
Oh, that's right.
Because I was, watching more closely at that time, and I'd been pretty out of commission, fairly ill up to that point. But I was like, man, I really want to watch the tournament. So I'd like every day I'd look at the numbers for the team tournament, and like sure enough, you at the top of the leaderboards in Vegas, like, and frankly the company, it's like 10 a day for I don't even know how many days straight. Holy crap,
She's
killing
sold
it.
15 in a day.
Yeah.
I've never seen a rookie.
That's 2 away from my best day ever.
I know, he was telling me that. He's texting me. He's like, Hayden's best day was this. He's like, you've got to beat it. No rookie has ever done it before.
You're like, you want to know all the other ways David used to pit me against pit all of our sales reps against me all summer.
Well, it was funny. That day is funny just because like I started off well. I was like at like 4 or 5 by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock, and he was like, you got to get 10. It's a 10 day. This is your day. Like, keep going. The first rookie to hit 10 in the Vegas office. And
you were, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tanner was close, but
Tanner probably after you, but
he's like,
until Tanner gets on the podcast, maybe we'll verify that.
Yeah. But yeah, so then I hit 10 and then I kept going. He's like, yes, you did it. And I'm like 12. And he's like, wait, 15.
15, let's go.
15. Wait, Hayden's best is 17. And so, yeah, I sold my last one that day at like 9:45 at night.
Which in Vegas gets dark early,
yes.
right?
Vegas is dark at 8:30. So Ashley was
Like
at the latest during the summer.
Yeah. I sold my like 14th at like 9 o'clock, and then my car group comes to pick me up. They're like, we're not letting you in the car until you get your 15.
Yeah.
So like, here I am knocking in the dark.
It's just as bad as like when you have 9 and the day's almost over and like you can't end on 9.
And
then you get like 11 and you're like, well, I can't end on 11. I need to get 12. And then you're like, okay, like do I go for 13? Because the choice isn't 13 or 12. It's like 12 or 15.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
so just to give people context as well, selling 15 in a day, you're basically making,
I think it was 10K in a day in rev.
What was it?
So okay, I'm just going to do weird numbers here so that people can't backtrack to like sales commissions, if that makes sense. So like, let's say you sell 15 in a day. just to give people context, you're basically making like like $4,000 in a day. Yeah. Yeah. So you make $4,000 in a day. You're like, oh, this is not a bad job. Yeah.
People make that in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, most people in a full summer of hourly work, they're making $4,000.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's kind of low for a full summer, but still, like even if you're making $4,000 a month, you're like, hey, I can pay my bills. It's like not bad.
Right.
So you made that in one day.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the only day that you got that. Like
no, it was like 3 days volume. In a row. I think I got like
she got 10 the next
and then
day.
the 8, then the 15, and then I just kept going.
10, 8, 15.
Just riding it up.
Yeah. Do you remember what you serviced that week?
Oh, I had a 25K week. So
cool.
I don't know how many. 38
probably
accounts?
30 some, 40 maybe.
Yeah, because it was that Saturday. I was like, I have to sell and service 6 accounts today. So I think I knocked to like, because normally those days are like a half day.
Yeah.
So I think I knocked to like 7.
You just making like $15,000 in a week.
I need one more, and I had like the tech following me.
That's awesome.
He was like, keep going, keep going. I was like, okay.
One thing I will say about Ashley is she's just her personality. She's very much of like a planner, and
really organized,
very organized.
Meticulous.
Yeah, and she even to the point where, and I tease her about this all the time, but she needs to know like little specific details about things that like don't even matter at all, which is fine. I relate to that.
Give you some peace of mind
to a point.
Something.
Yeah.
Satisfy the borderline OCD. That's like for me.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's bad.
But I think that helped her a lot during the summer because Ashley prepared like more than, the vast majority of anyone in our office preseason. So Ashley signed on, it was around this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier than this time last year, but she trained from like the minute she signed on all throughout the entire year until the beginning of the summer. And then her learning curve was a lot shorter than most of our sales reps. She just kind of hit the ground running. She really turned it on. Yeah, I mean, she really turned it on later in the summer, but like she hit the ground running and started killing it. And what she was saying too about goals and mindset, so on my mission trip I served for my church, there was kind of the leader of the group of missionaries that we were with. There's a quote that he would always... It's
funny the way we talk about this. It's like otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And that is one of my pet peeves when people talk about like their own church lingo in a way that like you're supposed to understand. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
leader of your organization.
For those watching, it was a mission trip for my church. I served for 2 years. It was actually out in like Portland area. But the leader of that group of missionaries, I got a chance to work with him really closely. I'm sorry. No, we were just joking
inside jokes.
We can't do that on the podcast. Okay, anyways, Bjorn's dying.
Well, because you were in the car with us all the way up to Idaho, and Bjorn's like, "What the freak are these guys talking about?"
Okay,
just us making
if
like jokes.
If you're watching the podcast, you probably get it. Okay, so the leader of like,
but you made a commitment to not ever talk about that though.
Never, never disclose that information. No, so like the leader of that group of missionaries, he always would say this, and it's something that like always stuck with me, and I've really applied it to sales and my sales reps. And he would always say, he said it's better to shoot for the stars and land on the moon than shoot for the mud and hit it. And so I know that's kind of like a funny phrase, but what he meant by that is like, if you're setting goals in anything, it doesn't matter, but I think it's especially applicable to sales. Shoot for the highest goal you can possibly imagine or believe in. Shoot for the stars.
Believe in, that's big.
Yeah, and if you believe in that, and if you're aiming for the stars, but you just land on the moon, you're still on the moon. Like it's way better than not setting a goal, shooting for the mud, right, and hitting it. So yeah. I think Ashley really applied that. She like shot for a goal that when she set the goal, I don't even know if she fully believed in, but she got to that point where she started believing in it more. Yeah. And then she was able to go achieve massive results. She did hit her goal, but even if she didn't, she still would have sold more than she would have had she not set such a high goal.
And that was your goal to do $100,000?
Yeah.
Okay. And you hit it. What was the actual number? Do you remember?
108.
108.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's go.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Which is, and again, you're saying like you didn't just shoot for the stars and hit them, and you actually like hit the goal that you wanted from the get-go.
She landed in the stars. Wait.
Oh.
You love when people take metaphors just like way too far. You're like, what are we talking about still?
So you have the solar system. No.
Gravity, you know gravity, right? Okay, so what does this have anything to do with sales? I like your shoes, by the way.
Thank you.
What things contributed to you hitting your goal? Because, and I'll preface this question with maybe a backdrop here. Most sales reps, when they come out and sell with us, they have high ambitions, but then they get kicked in the face their first couple of weeks knocking doors, and they're like, you either are like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Somehow they think it's going to be easier to make $100,000 in a summer than not. It's like, I don't know if it's because that's how we talk about it or something, but and then when it's actually hard, they're like, oh shoot. They either like will quit, which is rare for our org, or they'll lower their goal because, like what you were saying, if you go look at the last 2 weeks, you're like, freak, well, I'm actually not on track to hit my goal if I'm doing a per day average right now of like 2 sales or 4 sales a day or something. So I'm pointing out mostly that like the sales progress during the summer is exponential typically, or there's some sort of S curve where like it's a big learning curve at first and then you even out, and then you can continue and grow at the end. What made it so that you didn't lower your goal in that like initial ramp up phase where it didn't seem like it might be possible? Or did you lower your goal and then have to reevaluate and like actually persist, and then later you were like, oh, I can actually do this? It's a really long-winded question, but what contributed to you hitting your goal of 100K?
Like during the summer?
Yeah.
I think there was a time where I did have kind of a slump for sure, because it's that learning curve, and I think that's when I was like, I don't know if I can do this goal. And I definitely thought about lowering it because I didn't want to like get out there and not hit something that I had set. So I'm like,
set yourself up for disappointment, failure. Yeah.
And so I think David warned us about this a lot, that we were going to go through this learning curve, but I was like, okay, yeah, nah.
Whatever.
Nah, I'm doing good.
Not me.
And then I hit it. And I think we were learning new skills, and when you learn them, you're trying to put them all together and use them, and then you're not focusing on some of the vital ones. And so I think that's what was happening. And so I wasn't progressing the way I thought I should be. If I was learning better skills, these should be working. But once I mastered them quite a bit more, I was able to come up on top. And I think that's when I started really improving. And that's when I had all those big days, is because I could apply them all, not perfectly, but all together, where they all, I don't know, mesh the way that they should have.
Yeah,
on
like
the
click,
doors.
they kind of click all at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, to add on to that, like one of the most important things in sales is to be very genuine.
Yeah,
be actually genuine. I'm not talking about appearing genuine, like being actually yourself, because people feel that. They feel the difference, right?
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously. No, so
calling out your tonality, which is really good.
Yeah. But where was I going with that? Oh,
appearing genuine versus actually being genuine. It's important to be genuine.
Exactly. It's very important to actually be genuine. And so kind of what Ashley's talking about, when you learn new sales skills for the first time and you're trying to apply them, like sales reps tend to become more robotic. And so they're not being as genuine or as themselves as they would be until they can kind of break through that wall and really be genuine and mesh those tonalities or whatever that sales
even
skill
the
is
script itself
together.
Right? It's
exactly.
Like, maybe you don't talk like that normally in the way the script is written for your personality or something, and so how do you like mesh the two things, your own personality and the principles that are supposed to work?
Right.
Because up until you start doing it, it's all just theory anyway, right? Like as much as you prepared. What was that like, by the way? So because I know you prepared a ton, and very few reps are willing to approach me and ask me to train, let alone like be persistent about it. And you were one of those people. And even like on the cruise when we did it,
let's role play.
Yeah, you're like right now. No, and you'd asked me to do it a couple times, and I'm like, this is awesome. Role playing with you the first time, I was like, Ashley's gonna kill it. You have a natural confidence about you anyway, but just there's a look in someone's eye when they're really willing to prepare well, and you had that from what I could tell. So my question then becomes, when you're doing so much preparation and then it finally comes to the point where you're going to apply the things you prepared for or the skills, what was that like, where like, it doesn't like work right away? Did you disbelieve for some of the principles, maybe rethink them? Like, just talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think for sure, because I did put a ton of prep in. I was like making sure I was watching your training videos every single day, making sure that I got done with all the curriculum that I needed to be as prepared as I could to get out there and hopefully overachieve what I needed to be to make that summer worth it. And so I remember the first day I got dropped off. It was like, peace. I was like,
can you remember like the neighborhood you're in, like what it looks like, probably the smells?
I do. He dropped me off. I was like, wait, can you come with me? Yeah. Nope. Nope. See ya. But yeah, it's way different than you think. When you're role playing, those people know what you're supposed to be saying. And I don't know. And then when you're there with someone random, I'm like, mine goes blank. But as the day went on, you get more used to it. And so all the little skills start coming all together. And I got my first sale like a few streets from where I got dropped off, like within a few hours. But I was like, you want it? Like, okay.
Are you sure? They're like,
I don't know how to do this.
Are you sure you want to do this though?
I've never been this far before.
Credit card. No, but after I got that first sale, confidence goes up a lot. I'm like, wait, maybe these things do work. I just need to get in the groove of doing them naturally, kind of how he touched on. Because everything, people on the doors, even though they don't know you have this script and this and that, maybe they do, but they're going to know if you're not being genuine.
100%.
Even if they don't know you, they know what is genuine and what's not. And if you come off genuine, they're going to trust you more.
Yep.
And your confidence is a huge key player in that. And so doing all that training beforehand, going into the summer, I was a lot more confident because I had trained so hard that I knew all those key principles and what I should say. I didn't have to think twice about a lot of things because I prepared so much.
That's huge. And that's very different than what most sales reps do, because sales reps tend to be kind of scatterbrained and not detail oriented like you are. Really, I find people that end up being in leadership, which you're now a leader with us, a team lead, it's usually because they're also detail oriented. Whereas like the just high level like killers, they're typically not quite as detail oriented, although some are. Anyway, what I'm getting at with that is like, because you were so meticulous in preparing, you knew what to say. And so then it's just a matter of doing it now live instead of with someone who knows what you're about to say in a role play setting, you know? That's interesting. But again, that's not common for people, because most of the time what happens is the sales reps come out and they think they trained but because they like watched a couple of our videos or whatever, and they're like, oh no, I know the script. And they're like, the Forrest Gump pattern's so dope, I can't wait to do class. So it's like the first thing they say on the doors, you know? And then they're like, oh crap, this isn't working. It's like, no, it's not working. You're not working actually. And you need to like buckle down and start training. Whereas you'd already done that before the summer started.
Helped a ton.
Was it, I was just going to ask if it was just faster when you were talking to people versus like role play. Were you used to the speed?
I talk so fast. David shadowed me for the first time and was like,
slow down.
No one can understand what you're saying.
Is it because you're nervous or just naturally you kind of talk fast?
I think nervous. Yeah. I just don't know what they're going to say, if they're going to come out mad or angry or even want to listen. And so I'm like, I need to tell you all the information you need to hear right now. Yeah. Because it's, I don't know. That's for me. I was just like, especially in feature and benefits type of a thing. If I'm trying to like, I want them to know everything we have so that they know the value of it. But it's almost worse if you're just spewing it all out. They have no idea what to even understand or what it even is.
Exactly.
But that goes back to being genuine, right? Because I think as humans, our tendency, if someone interrupts us, our immediate reaction to that is, okay, let's like speed up what we're saying. Let's talk like really fast so I can get out the information. But the root of the problem is, the reason why they're interrupting you is because they don't want to listen to what you're saying. So you have to fix that by making what you're saying maybe more interesting and actually being genuine, being confident, working on these sales skills to where they want to listen to you. And it doesn't matter how slow you're talking, but it doesn't matter how fast you're talking. It more matters like your cadence, the things you're talking about, how genuine you are, how confident you are. And then people want to interrupt you because they're actually listening to you.
Right.
But
and the punchline being, genuine sales reps sell better than those that are not genuine. Okay, so I'm curious what both of you have to say about this. But Ashley, how would you define like someone who's genuine in a sales setting? Like, what does that look and sound like, a genuine sales rep?
I think it's different for everyone because it's just being yourself. Even if someone doesn't know who, kind of what I touched on earlier, if someone doesn't even know who you are, they can tell though.
Yeah.
If you're natural in how you're speaking and what you're doing, if you're confident.
Right.
And how you hold yourself, I think is the biggest thing.
That's huge. So. I would 100% agree with that. What do you think, David? What's like the definition of genuineness in a sales setting?
That's a really good question.
Or maybe even the characteristics of genuinity.
Yeah. I think the most genuine people, they come across very genuine when they're relaxed and when they're confident. And so a lot of that shines through in like kind of their nonverbal communication and their body language. Yeah. And maybe their like tonality. Because again, it's just not, it doesn't really matter what you say. It's more just about how you say it. Right. So, and that's what makes you seem genuine or not genuine. If you're really fidgety and your eye contact is like all over the place and maybe you're talking like super fast and with your hands a lot and you're clearly like nervous, it's like that just screams disingenuous. Like this person they seem dishonest, right? When you talk to someone like that. But if you're very relaxed and you're smiling and you're, just content and you don't have an issue being there and you're just pitching someone, like that's how people, seem a lot more genuine. And I think that's how you are. Yeah. When you're being the most genuine, I think people are just very comfortable where they're at and they're just relaxed. They're being 100%, like Ashley said, they're just being themselves.
Agreed.
And that's the irony is that looks different for every sales rep. So I think a lot of times we'll watch these pitches of top reps in the company and it's like, okay, Braden Searle sells like that, so I'm just going to mirror exactly what he said.
So everyone copies his smile, or like the one-liner that he says.
Exactly. Yeah. Happy wife, happy life. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That is not going to work for very many people. And Braden Searle, that works incredibly for him because that's who he is.
Yes, dude.
And so as far as like me, I get a little bit more, if you watch the podcast, like I'm like a little bit more intense when I like I'm trying to drive a certain point home. So that's how I sell on the doors. Sure. If you watch me like talking to and I used to say this to the sales reps all the time, but the same way that I talk to just like my best friend when I see him for the first time in a long time, I'm like, bro, what's up? That's the exact same way I treat the customer on the door.
Like at the beginning of the interaction?
Literally, yeah. I'll knock on the door and I'm just like, what's up, man? And like,
that's what we always say, right? Is like, and again, if I'm trying to, I think of it this way in my mind, trick a sales rep into doing the right principles. And this is if they're really struggling, then that's the easiest way to do it. Be like, okay, imagine who's your best friend? And you're like, Logan. Yeah, Hayden. Thank you. Like, all right, imagine you haven't seen Hayden in like 10 years. How would you react if he just opened the door and you're like, oh, I didn't realize you lived here. Like, what's up, Hayden? How are you? Yeah. So you hear my voice? It's like, that's how you should talk to people. And that is you're kind of getting at like the essence of genuineness or, real connection with people is if you're talking to them as if they are a valuable human to you in their life. And people can feel that. It's really powerful if you can master the skills of being able to do that kind of on command and really mean it, to your point.
I'll just say one more thing on that. One of the biggest mistakes that I see sales reps make is speaking out of the register of their voice. And
that's a huge one. I was going to say that too.
Yeah, but that screams, I'm dishonest and I'm a disingenuous person. I'm not a genuine person.
And that's what you were saying, Ashley, about like if someone is what do you say, dishonest, like people view you as being dishonest to them on the doors. If a rep is viewed as dishonest, like that's not genuine, obviously. So like the opposite of being genuine on the doors would be being perceived as dishonest. Well, I don't mean dishonest in lying with your words. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hearing you saying. It's like, if I'm speaking out like my high register of voice like this because I'm trying to like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little nervous or something. It's like people hear that and they look at me and they're like, all I know about this guy is that's not his voice. Yeah. And so therefore he's lying to me. And so therefore everything he says is a lie. Yeah. Therefore get the F off my property.
Because who do we talk to like that? Puppies and babies.
Dude, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Because when you see a cute little puppy, you're like, hi.
No, actually though.
Puppy. Or when you see a little baby, you're like, hi. So why would you ever speak to an adult like that? You should never do that. And so when we see people, this is my classic. I used to do this so much. and I look back and I still cringe because I think about myself doing this. I would knock on someone's door and I would see them and I would hit them with, hello.
Hey,
hello, how are you?
Today?
I do not talk like that. So when I changed that and I was like, hey man, how are you today? Right?
People
that's like, actually in my register of voice.
What do you do? They're like,
why are you?
Who are?
I'm not a puppy.
Did you just move in like down the street? Or like what?
Who are you?
but yeah,
what's the iPad for?
Exactly. No, but once I made that tweak, right? Then it became.
What did you say your name was? David?
They're like, come in.
Do I know? David that just got married to my sister. That David, you're like all part of their family already, just because you talk in your normal register of voice.
No, but seriously, I mean, once I made that change to then speaking in the normal register of my voice, then I realized I came across way more trusting to people.
Yep.
And came across way more genuine, and then people were actually going to give me the time of day.
Yeah,
because that's the irony of it, is that like most sales reps, I think, speak like that. So when I knock on the door and I'm like, hey,
and
what's
like,
up?
No offense to girls, but most girls actually do that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that's so that was different when I first met you, Ashley. I was like, oh, Ashley speaks in her normal register of voice. This is amazing. I'm being really facetious with this, but like that already off the bat, when you learn how to do that in a sales setting, it's like you won already. You can go sell 100K and apply basic principles and work really hard, and it's just going to happen, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So true.
Ashley, so question for you then. I kind of want to get into a little bit of your backstory. How are we on time, Bjorn?
It's been 35 minutes.
Okay, so we'll go for about 10 more minutes with this, but I really want to hone in on your story and some of the questions that I sent you. You're like, when are we going to talk about the 50 questions Hayden sent me? Will you just kind of paint a picture for us, like, where you were, actually, let's rewind even further. So just your life in general, what were some of your like dreams and aspirations, and what were some of the things you were trying to do to achieve those earlier on, like, you know, well before sales maybe?
Yeah. I actually went into college, not a communications major.
Okay.
I actually wanted to go into nursing.
Okay.
That was just a big thing for me. I wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse. And so I went up to BYUI. They have a nursing program, so you have to do the prereqs for it.
Okay.
And I actually went into these bio classes and actually failed them. Like, tried really hard and like flunked.
That would have been me as well.
But I was like, okay, I guess this isn't the path for me. So I ended up switching into communications, or generals first, and kind of went into communications. But sorry, what was your follow-up?
Yeah, well, we're getting at it, and I'm actually going to do like a hook for this because I think it'll be important. So Ashley, you just did 100K in your first summer. Just paint a picture for me of like where you were in your life before you even like knew about sales. Yeah. So, you know, what were some of your goals? Like, why were you studying? Why did you want to be a nurse in the first place? Why were you studying communications? Like, tell me a little bit about like your I don't know, just some deeper goals that you had.
Yeah. Well, going up into college, I wanted to get married really bad.
Okay.
And not necessarily that it needed to be rushed or anything. BYUI ring by spring or something is up
ring
there.
by spring. A lot of people get married very young in BYUI.
No,
yeah, ring by spring.
I do. That's what they call it.
Yeah, that's funny.
But for me, I didn't know about sales till I came up to BYUI.
Okay.
It's like a big, I think, Idaho, Utah.
It's like a weird niche thing. Yeah, I had no
idea
what
it was. But before sales, I wanted to get married. I want to have children. Still do. Okay.
Are you single, by the way?
Yeah.
We'll put Ashley's
single, everybody.
Instagram in the bio.
Instagram and bio.
Just like,
plug.
Phone numbers there as well. I'm just kidding.
No,
Go for it.
But yeah, before knowing about sales, I just had all these big dreams and goals. And I think I've always been a person who like looks into the future to make sure that like I'm a planner.
Yeah.
I need to like kind of know where I'm going and make sure that I'm on the right track to get there. Otherwise, once it comes to a certain age and I'm not there, I'm disappointed. I'm like,
sure.
I just wasted like
so you're putting even timetables on these big goals of yours too.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Cool.
When they come and they come the right way.
Or at least feeling urgent about them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feeling like they need to be coming. I need to be on the right track to be the best person I need to be. And whether that's for the future wife or mom I'm going to be in the future, like making sure that I'm on the right track to be that person.
Cool.
Or in career wise.
Yeah. I love that. What were some of your aspirations? Okay, so you talked about being a wife and a mother and like really wanting to be the best version of those things. Talk to me about some of the additional goals that you had. Maybe they're even really related to that too. Like, because you said career ambitions there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that stuff.
Like career wise.
Yeah, or even like financially too. Like, what type of how much money were you hoping to be able to make, and what I really want to get at is like why too. Like, what was driving those ambitions?
Yeah, for sales specifically.
No, even before that, because yeah.
Well, like going into college, like my main goal was I want to be out of college debt free. Like I don't want to take loans out.
There we go.
And so I was donating plasma, working at a little sandwich shop in Rexburg. Like,
let's go.
On top of like 14 credits at a time. So like I was grinding, and because I didn't want to be set up for failure. Not in the sense that taking out a loan or something is a failure, but I wanted to be debt free. Whether that's to make sure that when I get married, we don't have debt to worry about or this or that. And so for me, I needed to grind to make sure that those things were ready when it came to.
Awesome.
And so I'm still debt free, and so everything's worked out so far. But I think that was the leading cause of me kind of getting into summer sales, was definitely the money.
Yeah,
I could earn a lot of money in a little time and not worry about it so much during when I'm actually at school, and I don't have to be grinding super, super hard during classes. I can focus more on relationships and work, and
which is like such a cool reason to do something like this, right? For anyone like our age. I'm way older than you guys, but your guys' age and my age too, I guess. Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, then you're like, from the time you were young, had these ambitions to just have an amazing family, basically, right?
For sure.
And you be like a really driving factor in that amazing family for the future, but also, you know, having financial ambitions too, to graduate debt free. And that was driving it. A lot of it was like, I don't want to have to carry debt into my family, and when I get married, and have to be like maybe a burden in that way to my spouse or whatever. For sure. Which is how I also felt too. But then, so what were all the things you were doing to try to be debt free or graduate debt free before you were introduced to like the idea of sales?
It's
you
all
said donating
plasma, working at this like little old family run sandwich shop.
I think I might have. What's it called?
Mill Hollow.
For sure.
So good.
It's so good. I still go back there and eat there. It's so good.
Just reminisce on.
Anyways, I did that. I would like, I don't know, my parents helped me a lot too, so I knew that they had my back if I couldn't. So but I like to feel independent though too, and make sure that I can be on top of things. So if I needed to work more, because we got paid once a month there, they still do that. So I was like, okay.
You didn't want to ask them
tuition.
for money.
Yeah, I don't want to have to if I don't need to. And so I'd put more hours into work or do this or that to make sure that I'm budgeting here and there, but I can have fun and do this and get A's in my classes and pass and feel successful.
And you're taking 14 credits at the same time. Probably just like, we used to always say this is like, if you can have good grades, a social life, or I don't even remember the other one, or sleep, but not all three. It's like, if you're going to have good grades and a social life, then you probably have to sacrifice some sleep. What was that like for you? Were you just working every minute of the day basically between school and work, and then sacrificing sleep for social life, or how did that look?
That first year I would go to classes, go straight from classes to work a lot of the times, and then you think you can donate like twice a week, so I'm like always booking it in, making sure that I do it. And on top of that, I'm an extrovert for sure, and so like my social battery needs to be filled by hanging out with people. And so whether that's at work, I'm socializing with people, but also every weekend I needed to be going out and doing something. So for sure I was losing sleep all the time. So, because I just had to fill my battery, and whether that was like I was filling it financially by going to work and doing plasma, I was getting my college career done by doing my classes, making sure that I'm on top of them before putting that social aspect on top of it, but trying to mesh them all.
That's huge. I mean, I just am the reason I'm smiling is because like so many people can relate to that if you're going to college where you're trying to make everything work. And I mean, I think the reason why a lot of people go to college these days too is for the connection / social aspect of it. You know, they don't want to miss out on that experience. My mom used to tell me that all the time. She's like, hey, you got to finish college. It's just a really good experience that you're never going to have again. And I'm like, cool. Okay. Just the experience. Great. But you're also staying on top of it in every other aspect. Yeah. Okay. So at what point were you introduced to the idea of maybe a different path than having to work all hours of the day, sacrifice sleep to even have a social life? When were you introduced to that?
Well, I knew of sales, and I had a previous boyfriend who actually did sales one time, but he wasn't like this. I feel like there's a negative connotation with sales. In general,
even let alone some door-to-door sales or summer sales.
He didn't have a great experience before, but also you just see these guys running around on these little wheelie Segway things to class, just straight face, doesn't talk to anybody, and then they're flexing their money left and right. So I was like, I don't want to be one of those, you know? And so it had this negative connotation and stereotype that I just didn't really want to be a part of necessarily. I never really looked at it for good lights because I only heard kind of bad things. I mean, I knew those people made a lot of money, but never really thought that like maybe it'd be for me. But I had a few friends. I knew David, and then I met Johnny and little Johnny, a few of the other guys who went to Vegas too. But they ended up talking me into having a first meeting just to see logistics, just how it's going to be like, sit down, what would it actually look like? And I was like, you know what, like I've heard this and that. It'd be nice to maybe just earn all my money in 4 months, and then I don't have to work and donate plasma all the time. And focus on other things. And so that's kind of how I got hooked into one meeting, and David,
rest is history.
Magic.
Yeah, David's pretty good at what he does.
David's good.
Okay, so I'm actually curious why you considered taking a meeting. Was it because they were so persistent? Because I'm imagining if you went to BYU, Idaho, it's like everyone is hounding you for an interview for recruiting. Like everyone's trying to recruit you to do sales from every company, right? So had you been begged by other companies to meet yet, or was this the kind of the first time?
This was the first time. I feel like girls more so. It's not as many girls do it. And
that's fair. Yeah, I didn't actually consider that.
Not a ton of. I had never really had people. Some guys stand at the corner
because the guys just get bombarded.
Yeah. But I'd never been like approached about it. But because I knew some of the guys, they just mentioned it, and it wasn't like super pushy. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like money wise, this could work. Maybe I'll just do it once. See how it goes. Maybe if it's terrible within the first 2 weeks, I'll leave. But I also thought maybe it would work for an internship too.
Oh, cool.
With my communications degree.
And
so I was like, well, maybe let's just look into logistics. What does it look like? Could it count as an internship? I could have it help with school too, and then get paid on top of it, and kind of be an all for one.
All started like making sense.
Like this could help me with my scheduling.
And so the reason I asked that question was you said that you didn't want to be like these other sales guys, basically, right? It's like they had a bad rep for, I don't know. I mean, they just kind of just like entitled and seem a little slimy maybe. And maybe you'd heard stories too. I had it once I looked into it, but why did you, so with that in mind, like you didn't want to be like that, and that kept you from looking into it. What was different about this group that made you think like, oh, I actually will consider this?
Once I met with David, I like that first meeting is just to get to know you, see if it'd be a good fit. And that's kind of where
it's awesome. It's so cool. I love that.
I think that was a big thing for me because I'm just expecting to go in and see a bunch of numbers, right? And I think that's where I noticed that they actually, I mean, I had a ton of questions too. Like I said, I just asked unnecessary questions, but I was like, what's the day-to-day life going to look like out there? Religion is a big thing for me. Are we going to church every Sunday, or are people like not having bad habits on the weekends? I don't know. If you're going to be around people that have the same outlook in life as me, and like, because that culture is a huge thing. If they aren't on the same track as me or have the same morals and values, I'm not going to progress upwards towards where I want to be. And so that was huge for me. And so I asked a lot of questions, kind of like how the summer would look like and how it would fit into my life and kind of where I want to be. And so for me, I mean, he gave the right answers, and I was like, okay, maybe this could work. And then looked into numbers. I was like, financially, this could be a blessing but it's a huge risk.
Yeah.
And I think that was the huge thing for me. I was like, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And that's why I trained so hard and why I went into the summer trying to have as little of a learning curve as possible, because high risk, high reward, it's got to even out for it to be worth it for me to put so much work into it. So.
Yeah. So if you're going to commit to something, like you're going to do it right and all the way. I've always really appreciated that because I know a bit about your story, and I've always really appreciated about that, your attitude and mentality from what I know personally about you. And then just watching that play out actually during the sales season was just really cool. So my other question then is, when you committed, you went all in and then you started training, what sort of things did you really enjoy about the training that stood out to you that maybe confirmed your decision? Like, I think I like, this is going to be awesome. Like I can see it, working out well or something.
Yeah. What I loved that Moxie does I haven't been with other companies, but what Moxie did was doing a first creation, and it had nothing to do with necessarily how much money you're going to make and hyping up that aspect. It was like the core values.
Yeah.
So integrity, gratitude, hard work, make you keep commitments, sales skills, those are all of them. But I just love that they focus on that so much.
Yeah.
Because that's going to make sure that you come out of the summer a better person than a worse one. There's an analogy David gives all the time. I don't know if you got it from Hayden, but the Satan versus Christ analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So like if Satan and Christ both have really good persuasion and influence skills, if you had bad intentions behind that and you don't have integrity or gratitude and those skills, you're going to come out as a worse person than a better one if you do have those skills. So.
Yeah, that well, it's not really an analogy. It's like truth, right? It's really powerful because it's basically pointing out that like the difference between good and evil is, ideally a good person who affects tons of change in the world is very good at persuasion. They're very influential. They're also probably stupid hardworking and really good at keeping commitments and following through with their word. But an evil person is those same three things as well. They're persuasive, they're hardworking, and they're good at following through. But what separates someone who's good from someone who's evil is your ability to maintain integrity to principles and values and to be a grateful person. It's like very, very different. A bad person is typically entitled, and they're typically dishonest at their core.
I will say too, like that's something that we look for in that first meeting that Ashley was talking about, because my first time meeting with people, I never talk about pay scale. I never talk about numbers just yet, because I really do want to see if they're actually a good fit for our culture, if they're the type of person that I want to work with. I always say when, I'll tell sales reps this, but I feel like I've been doing this for long enough that I've talked to enough top performers and even like trained some top performers. And there's, in my mind, there's three things that the top performers or the A players in this industry value. The first one is they're looking for an opportunity to like maximize the amount of money they can make. They just want to make a lot of money. The second thing is and the second thing is culture. They understand that the people that they surround themselves with, that's who they're going to become at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so they really value a strong culture of people who are like-minded, and Ashley talked about that. And then the third one, which is most important, is that character aspect where it's important to them to just grow as a person and become the best version of themselves. And the irony of those three things is if you flip them, and if we only hire people who are like motivated to become the best version of themselves, then naturally we're going to have a really, really good culture where everyone is like-minded and everyone's shooting for the same thing. And if we have a really good culture, everyone's going to maximize the amount of money they can make. They'll 100%. All make way more money than they could doing anything else. And so as we focus on the character side, financially, it's a no-brainer. And people are actually just doing what matters most, becoming that best version of themselves.
And Ashley, doing 100K this year in your first summer selling, did you find that to be true with those three things? It's like, if you're focused on being a good person, that affects the culture, which then affects the money. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of hits a wall in the summer, and it was probably about halfway for me. I think in one of my slumps, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard. This is not easy. I don't know how I'm going to finish the other half, but I made a commitment to do it, one, but also it's I got into like a reflection state of mind where I'm like, wow, like I did this in the first place for the money, but I could leave right now and it'd still be worth it for me. but I'm gonna stay because of how Moxie has everything set out to be and how they care so much about the person you're becoming.
That's
and
awesome.
So
100%
I
true.
just found myself, a lot of people say this, but they're on the fast track of being the best version of themselves. And so I found myself to be on that same journey.
Yeah.
I was setting goals and commitments that I wouldn't have normally done before sales because of the core values that they put in there.
Yeah.
I was setting just little commitments in every aspect of my life to make sure that I was on that fast track, even when I was out there doing this really hard job.
Cool.
So
what types of commitments, aside from the specific sales ones, were you setting that made you proud of who you were becoming?
Yeah. So religion wise, I was making sure that in the mornings as I was getting ready, I was listening to my scriptures at least 10, 15 minutes a day.
Cool.
Making sure that I was on top of that. Another one was making sure I was like physically fit. That's a huge thing for me, getting in the gym. And so I wanted to make sure that I was being physically active, whether that was out there on the doors, I'm walking around all day, or I'm going to the gym at night or before meeting in the morning.
Sure.
Making sure I'm on top of those. Those are the big main things. When I'm in the off season, I did a few things for like school wise.
Cool.
But making sure I was on top of those main things that I cared about most in life.
The point being that it's like, to what you were saying, it's not only cool, it's like very impactful to be in an environment where we care way more about who you're becoming in all of the aspects of your life than we do just the sales aspect.
Yeah.
That's just one of many, right? But like, yes, you're a sales rep. Yes, you're a team leader, but that's not the basic definition of who you are as a person. Like, you're an individual, you're a child of God, you're deeper things that go beyond just like these titles that are really fluid, like, you know, our job titles, or even like our relationships. And so therefore we should care about everything else besides just the title of team leader and what you're doing in your performance, or the title of sales rep and what you're doing in your performance.
Well, that's so important too. When we just talk about like true happiness, which is something that everyone's searching for, right? Like, true happiness comes from identifying what you actually really care about and then going and getting that. So when I always say, you know, when people are on, I talked about this in my training just a few days ago. When people are on their deathbed, this is kind of gnarly. When people are on their deathbed, right? And they're maybe surrounded by the people they care about most, their loved ones, and the people that know about them the best. They're not laying there on their deathbed thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I made another $1 million. No one thinks that. Like, I guarantee it, right? What people are really thinking about is, who am I as a person? Who are the people that I affected in this life? What are the good things that I went out and accomplished?
Yeah.
And that's, at the end of the day, what people really actually care about the most. And so my thing is, with Ashley talked about, you know, this idea of a first creation.
Which is, it's essentially goal setting, short and long term.
Exactly.
In layman's terms.
Yeah, it's getting like a blueprint for your life or whatever you want to do. And so when we focus on those things, when we focus on the right things that we actually care about, that leads to happiness.
Yeah.
That leads to having meaning in life, which is something that everyone wants. I always like talk about this where it's like no wonder so many people are depressed. Like, seriously, because people just don't have direction. They don't have meaning. They don't actually know what they want. They think they know what they want, but they don't. And so they're spending all their time at their, you know, this sounds cliche, but it's like at their 9-to-5 job or whatever, or they're spending all their time doing things that they think are important and that other people tell them are important, but it's not actually what matters most to them. So once you can identify those few things, that you can identify your roles, right? Maybe it's being a daughter, or maybe it's being a mother, or maybe it's being a father, or a child of God, or a sales rep is one of them, right? Whatever those roles are, identify those roles and then set specific measurable goals in each of those categories.
Yeah.
And then you're actually becoming the person that you want to be when you are laying there on your deathbed. And you can look back and think, look at all that I achieved in all of these different roles. Maybe you are a millionaire, but that's just one little fraction of what's actually important in the grand scheme of things. And so you can be there on your deathbed thinking, look at everything I accomplished, right? And you can actually feel that satisfaction. So and then the process from now till then is that's where the happiness comes.
So when I was 21 years old, I had big dreams of a few things. Becoming a millionaire by the time I was 30, that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to own my own business, and I wanted to create financial freedom through investing in real estate, startups, any other type of vehicle that would give me passive income so that I could really provide for my family and my parents in a significant way because of how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I didn't grow up in the most well-off household, and so I really wanted to create a life for my family that they could be comfortable. I'm a grandchild of immigrants, and I had a lot of people in my life that came before me that have sacrificed a ton to create the good things that I have. I wanted to create financial freedom so that I could give back and serve significantly. I thought I was going to do that by, first off, playing football in the NFL. I obsessed over football growing up, but then I quickly got cut from my college team upon arriving, basically. So then I thought I was going to do that by getting into a prominent business school and excelling there, and then, getting a high-paying job out of college. And I didn't get into any of the business schools that I applied for, and there were more than one. So I had some, learning disabilities and a couple other things that felt like held me back in that way. Bottom line, it just didn't work. So after all the failed attempts to make money and try to achieve my dreams early, I was basically desperate and just really didn't think that it would all work out. I was doing a bunch of these hourly jobs and barely making ends meet and donating plasma, all the things you do when you're a poor college kid. I had a friend approach me and say that he had made $50,000 doing a sales job during the summer in between semesters. And he was a really well-known and highly prominent athlete. I had grown up hearing about how good he was at football. And so we became friends after I got home from a mission for my church. I just trusted him. So I looked into it. I ended up doing this sales job thinking that it would just be a better way to hold me over while I really figured out how I was going to provide financially for my family and really make a big dent in my dreams. Fast forward a few years later, I was with the same company doing that job over and over again while I was going to school, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now coaching and teaching other people how to do the same thing. It completely changed my life in a way that I did not expect, learning how to persuade and influence people at a high level because you practice that day in and day out. That translated over into every other relationship and aspect of my life that I care more about than just sales. And then obviously financially being able to get well ahead of all of my peers and the other people who were not willing to make those sacrifices of doing that sales job during the summer in the off months of school. And then fast forward even more ahead, I was able to become a millionaire by 26 and have a multiple $1 million net worth by the time I was 30, upwards of $10 million plus, and invest in real estate early on in my 20s, be able to give back and help pay for mission trips and do service opportunities that I just otherwise wouldn't have had. But what I'm most proud of is being able to give my family, my parents, my wife, my immediate family the life that they just really never had growing up. Because I think deep down we all want to be the type of people that when all is said and done, we actually have made a difference in other people's lives. And I feel like that's actually really the deep result of what this job ended up doing for me in a way that I just did not expect. Long story short, I'm obsessed with teaching the same things to other people. And since I have gotten to management and now I'm a partner in our company, I've been able to work with upwards of over 1,000 sales reps who are young, ambitious, college-age kids mostly, who start doing this job just to pay for school, but end up finding out that it's highly impactful for every other aspect of their life. So right now we are hiring and we have limited spots available to take on of people. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description of this video or in my bio. You can check that out, apply and see if you're a good fit or a candidate for this job. We have personality profiles that can match you with income and earning potential that is very much historically accurate of people that have gone in our program before. And if you take the leap of faith and at least learn about whether this could be a good fit for you, I think you're going to be not only really impressed, but if your results are even half as good as what everyone else has gone through this program has experienced, the only problem that you'll have is that one, you didn't know about this sooner, and two, that you didn't sign up and try to do it yesterday. All right, so give it a shot. Check out the link in my bio, and I'll see you guys in the rest of the episode. The truth is that more guys than girls do this job.
Oh, yeah.
Just statistically speaking. It's no commentary on really why or anything. I won't dive into that, and I don't think I have any real opinions on it actually. But I'm curious your perspective as a girl sales rep, as a female out there with a bunch of other guys. And I know there are other girls on the team too, but you also hear stories from the guys about selling. Was your experience different from what you could tell versus the guys, or was it the same? I've actually been very curious about this.
I don't think so. There are crazy stories. I feel like I have a few of my own too.
Okay.
I think I was worried more so like safety wise.
Okay.
I think it's scarier going up to a door and having an old man answer, and I don't know, not feeling as in control.
Sure.
And so before the summer, I definitely made sure with David that like people know where I'm at, or they're close by, or if I need somebody, I have somebody on one phone call.
Covering your bases in that way.
Yeah.
Would you do anything like, I know some people actually take like pepper spray with them. Would you ever?
My mom's probably going to watch this. She's going to hate me, but yeah, I didn't. I didn't bring anything. I was going to, but I honestly, going into the summer, maybe was a little bit scared, but as I did it a little bit, I was like, okay, this is terrible. I think knocking into dark was a little bit more scarier. So once it did hit dark, I didn't feel as comfortable. Just keeping on going.
Through.
You don't really know who you're talking to, and it's a little scary.
Ashley just worked out a lot. She's like, what's up?
Yoked on the doors.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I would, that's that's kind of a concern for anyone, really. I remember, well, the truth is we knock in neighborhoods that the majority of the time you wouldn't need to be fearful about it anyway.
Yeah.
However, I've been in areas where I thought were like really great, like wealthy, and then dark hits, and I don't know, something sketch happens or whatever. I'm like, I really hope that guy's not beating his wife inside that house with all the screams coming out of it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But actually,
for
real. Just like anything can happen. It's just weird sometimes, and like you're talking to 100+ people a day, so it's like what do we talk about on the one episode where it's you probably talk to a serial killer today.
Pulling the averages up of how many serial killers people are talking to. That's actually so funny.
It's so sketchy. Everyone's like, I don't ever want to do this job. Are there any other like precautions that you took outside of that to just make sure that you felt good and I don't know, safe?
I would say just be smart. Like,
it's like so easy, actually.
It's so easy, but there's so many people who could be dumb about it. Don't go inside someone's house.
It just never ever like that. That's
just don't do that. I think just being smart about it, knowing your boundaries and what you're okay and comfortable with, especially on the doors you don't know anyone's intentions.
Yeah.
And so just being careful in general.
Yeah, that's fair. I always hesitate asking sales reps to give me crazy stories, but I kind of want to know a couple. Do you have any appropriate crazy stories? And like the opposite of appropriate is inappropriate, obviously. And so I'm not trying to make people think that there are like tons of just inappropriate stories in the way you would think of that. But I mean just appropriate in terms of PC friendly or camera friendly.
Well, it was funny. One day I was in a 55 and plus neighborhood. And those are hit or miss, I feel, whether they're really, really nice or they're really, really just grumpy.
That's funny.
And so...
did we get the grumpy 55 plus today or the nice 55 plus today?
I had the grumpy 55 plus this day. But I knock on this guy's door. The wife and the husband answer, and they're just kind of confused while I was there. I kind of give my intro, and they're like, is the neighborhood paying for this? And I said... oh no, I'm kind of gonna say we're doing a deal, this and that. And they were like, I don't want it. Slams the door. Wait. I walk away. I'm in the driveway. I hear the door open. This guy is storming out. And he gets about this close to my face, and he is like screaming.
I won't show on camera how close.
This close. But yeah, he's screaming, like practically spitting in my face, just cussing me out, telling me I shouldn't be here. I'm gonna get you. I'm calling the cops. You should not be here. If you come back, I'll take out my shotgun and I'm like, and he's going like this, and I'm like,
whoa.
And I'm like, there's no way you're gonna punch. You're gonna punch
you're gonna
me.
Punch.
And
a freaking college-age girl.
The thing is that I just found it so funny. So I'm standing here like just laughing. I'm laughing at him, and it's making him more angry. And he's like,
of course.
Why do you think this is funny? And I'm just laughing. I was like, I was walking away. You didn't have to come storming out here. As calm as can be. Yeah, the neighbor starts pulling up. He goes, come out here. You won't believe this. You will not.
The guy to the neighbor?
Yeah.
Neighbor's like, what the?
Yeah. It's like, I'm just selling pest control.
Anytime something like that would happen to me, and every year you have like that, multiple times. And like, I'm actually totally fine people knowing that stuff about this job, is because it's the right person does what you do, where it's just like, this is kind of hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
Or like me, I was kind of an emotional basket case my first summer, and so I would be like, man, that person must have some bad stuff going on in their life to be so mad. And I like get all
Don't
sad
take
about
it personal. Yeah.
No, one thing.
But like not personal about me. I'm just like, man, that guy's life must be really hard.
I remember one thing you told me my rookie year, because I was the exact same. And it got
like
to the point
empathizing with people too much.
Well, okay, here's the thing. I would either empathize with them and I would feel bad, or I would like start shooting back, and they're like,
"Oh, dude, yeah, like combative.
Like,
yeah.
why are you here?" Like,
which is not what you were doing. You were Ashley was just chilling there, just
laughing. That's the right way to handle it. But I would be like, I'm not interested. What are you not interested in? Like before I even get my pitch
you don't even know what I'm here for.
Yeah, and then
you don't even know what.
Yeah.
It's hard to be not interested in something you don't even know what it is.
Yeah. No, literally. It's so I would make the situation worse. I would make it them more angry by like shooting back. Well, one thing that you told me that you did, and I immediately started applying this, was anytime someone like just came out clearly just triggered for no reason at me, I would just run off the porch. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember you telling me this.
No, I still do this.
Yeah,
I'll give context to how this plays out, but I still do that. Yeah,
dude, it is the most satisfying thing because people come out and they just open the door like, "What do you want?" And I'm just like, "Foo," and I just dip, and they're like, they're so confused, and it's the funniest thing ever to me.
So that's not how I do it now. That's definitely how I used to do it because, like, okay, so I got this idea from. I wanted to create a pattern break that would reset my mind, and I knew that the way to do that was to like, this is gonna sound masochistic, but like inflict pain upon myself. So I would actually, so this is how I would do it originally. Okay, dude, yeah. Anyone that knows me, they'll be like, yeah, my theme song is like "Sucker for Pain" by 21 Pilots. So I would wear that's how I've always worn just a wristband, rubber wristband, like rubber bands. Or an actual rubber band, yeah, kind of like that. Oh, yeah. Only recently I stopped wearing them, but because you have like 12 bands on my arm.
Grant Cardone.
Right. But that's what I would do is I would get one and I would like pull it really hard and slap it really hard. And it would get my mind off of the rejection, actually. So it was like itself a pattern break for my mind. And when you're like, ow, my wrist hurts, you're not thinking about the guy that just yelled at you, you know? Right. But then I was like, okay, after like 20 of these, this like hurts really bad. You're like, just kidding. So then I was like, I got to find a better way to do this. And so I would still do that on really hard rejection. But instead what I started doing was running off the doorstep.
Get your heart rate up?
To get my heart rate up. Exactly. And that was before I segue. And now I do something completely different, but.
No, I just crash myself.
No, now I just don't get people mad.
Jump off the curb.
Yeah, honestly. That is interesting. The longer that I've done this, the less people are mad. Yeah, and you think initially that it's something that you can't control.
No, you totally can control it.
And I have rookie reps every year who are just like, like. What were we talking about? The crazier the story, the less you sold that day.
Yeah, it's like
it's so true.
It's like if I just didn't know the leaderboards, like blind, right? And then like the teams in front of me are like, all right, who has the craziest stories? And like all the guys that raise their hand are like, you probably didn't sell anything yesterday.
yeah, exactly.
Because when you're really good at this, you just don't have very many crazy stories anymore, frankly.
Yeah, you just start to have like very normal interactions with people.
Sometimes though, like that doesn't mean you're bad at sales when you have someone yell at you, but like it's not nearly as often.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. So now what I do though is if someone comes out really hot like that, I actually, so you know the principle we talk about called asking permission to ask questions? That's actually what I do. So like, dude, I'm really apologetic actually. So here's the evolution of how I used to handle hard rejection, okay? Fight back.
Same.
Yep, first. And then I like evolved into like empathizing with them, but like overly empathizing. So I'd try to imagine like, man, this guy's probably had a really hard day at work. I would be upset too. And he's just taking it out on me. But then I'm just like sad all day because I'm imagining all these people with like terrible lives, right? He probably beats his wife and like whatever. And then like next
his poor wife. You're feeling sad about his wife like walking off the
No, actually though. And then it evolved to what you do, which is like actually like laughing about it. Yeah, which makes it so much worse actually. But if you keep laughing, you don't actually care. Then it doesn't even matter that much. However, you get wrecked on the Facebook page, on the neighborhood Facebook page. And so then it evolved to the pattern break and running off the doors. But now it's what I do is just ask permission to ask questions. And I'm really apologetic actually. So, but in a confident way. So it's not like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because then they get more pissed if you're like out of your register of voice. So if someone comes out, they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry. I apologize. I just have a very quick question. I promise I'll leave you alone. Do you happen to know if, and then just ask a question, but like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but blah, blah, blah. And then just so you're aware, or something along those lines.
That's fire.
But I'm just really apologetic and then ask permission to ask the questions. Hey, let me ask you really quick. Do you, and then it's like right into the next thing.
Yeah. That's way good.
Or if they say something specifically like, what are you doing here? I hate door-to-door salesmen. You guys are the worst. And I know the area's been knocked a lot. If that happens, too much, then I'll be like, dude, I'm really sorry. I hate door-to-door salesmen as well. Let me just ask you really quickly, and I promise I'll leave you alone. I don't even want to sell you anything, because by that point, I'm like not going to get to that guy anyway, right?
Yeah, but you just mirrored them too.
Yeah, so. Exactly. It'd be like, can I just leave you with the card at least? And like, you call me if you want, but like, I'm not going to be that guy that tries to hard pitch you right now.
Yeah.
And I'll only then keep pitching if they ask me a question, because I just told them I'm not going to sell you anything. Here's my card. And I don't want to be dishonest about it or even sneaky. So, but I probably got like 2 or 3 dozen sales just this summer alone because of doing that. It's like someone comes out pissed, and like, dude, can I just leave you with the card, man? I promise I won't bug you. Like, here you go. I'm so sorry. I hate door-to-door salesmen too, frankly. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Can I just leave you with the card?
Sure.
I hate door-to-door salesmen. Same, dude. Like,
hey, bro, me too. By the way, who do you guys use?
Bro, same.
Anyway, there you go. There's a lecture on the evolution of Hayden and how to handle rejection.
That's funny.
Yeah. Dude, we probably don't have much more time for this. We need to do this again and actually tell more stories, because I think this is fun. But Ashley, thanks for being on the podcast today. Seriously, thanks for coming all the way down from Idaho. David, you've taken 2 trips the last 2 weeks there.
It is a long drive.
It's long.
A boring drive.
It is long and kind of boring. So thank you for coming all the way down here for the podcast. And shout out to Ashley's mom if you watch this, for raising an amazing daughter. And congrats on hitting your goals this year.
Thank
you. Like, very much looking forward to what you do this summer. I have a feeling it's going to be big. So, cool, guys. Bye.
Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.